Hello again. Recently on the Elvis Now and Then channel, Adam and myself discussed what was potentially a lost Elvis album. And this was 1973 when RCA chose to release what we know as the full album, but could have released something much better. And we both came up with our versions of what they should have done. Now, of course, from 1963 we have the sessions that are now known as the Lost Album, where they chose not to produce a new studio album but to use the tracks as various bonus songs over the next few years on soundtrack albums. So another Lost Album. And of course from 1972 we had the announced Elvis Standing Room Only album, which was never actually released. Instead they put out the Madison Square Garden album. So again, another Lost Album. Now there is potentially a third or fourth Lost Album, and this was 1967, and I'll explain why. On the 18th of August 1967, filming finished on Elvis's movie Speedway. He then did what was called looping, which is where you re-record the dialogue for a movie, and that ended on the 21st. On the 22nd, the cast and crew held a party, and that evening Elvis was due to go into RCA Studio A, Hollywood. An evening session had been booked for 3 hours. Producing, Felton Jarvis. Arranging, Billy Strange. Engineer, Jim Malloy. The musicians were what are now known as the Wrecking Crew. Probably amongst the best session musicians in the world. On guitars you had Al Casey, Dennis Budimir, Jerry Cole. On bass, Chuck Berghofer and Carol Kay. Drums, Hal Blaine. Piano, Larry Knechtel. Trumpet, Roy Caton, Ollie Mitchell. Trombone, Dick Hyde and Lou McCreary. And on the vibes and tambourine, Gary Coleman. And a group of backup singers had also been booked. Now at the last moment the session was cancelled. In fact, it was cancelled so late that all the musicians and singers were paid. So why was it cancelled? Now the story that can be found, if you look on Keith Flynn's fantastic recording session site, is that afternoon Richard Davis, one of Elvis's employees, had accidentally run down and killed a man in one of Elvis's cars. And the story goes that the Colonel insisted that Elvis immediately fly to Las Vegas, even though he wasn't in the car at the time, to put some distance between him and the incident. And there was an attempted lawsuit over it. Now when I went looking for evidence of this, I found a slightly different story. In fact, this incident appears to have occurred in 1963. Now surely there can't be two accidents. So what is the real story here? Unfortunately I wasn't able to find a definitive account. But we know the session was booked, and we know that the musicians and singers were asked to prepare to record a set of songs. So what were these songs? Well, we have a list of 11 songs. So let's go through them. If This Love Is Wrong. Now I haven't been able to track down a song with this title, so if you know what it is, please put it in the comments. Here Comes Tomorrow, which had been released that year by the Monkees, and in fact was written by Neil Diamond. Ramblin' Rose, the Jerry Lee Lewis song, released in 1962. From a Jack to a King, After Loving You, Guitar Man, all of course which Elvis would record. And I Tell the Sea, a Tom Jones song from 1965. Brown Eyed Handsome Man, Chuck Berry song. I'll Never Find Another You, The Seekers, Tonight I Won't Be There by Adam Wade, and finally Baby What You Want Me to Do, which of course he would record the next year for the TV special. Also on the list was We Call on Him, the gospel song that he would also record. So if we leave the gospel song off, that leaves us with 10 tracks. So potentially, late 1967, 1968, we could have had another studio album. So I've done a quick mock-up of a potential cover. It would have been an interesting set of songs. Some of them not so obvious, but what you have to remember, of course, Elvis was a master reinterpreter, and he had behind him the Wrecking Crew, who had a particular sound. So what they could have done with these songs, who knows? Sadly, another lost album. But an interesting one to think about. Now, if anybody can fill in any of the gaps on this, I'd be interested to know what the actual reason was for the session being cancelled. So that's it. Till next time, bye for now.